Hi, students. I want to take a few minutes right now to go over your vocabulary homework for this week. Um, we're doing the Hans Christian Andersen vocabulary number 2 this week. Our words are autobiography, biography, nonfiction, sight, fairy tale, milestone, heroine, quirk, insane, and excel. Okay, so let's look at the Monday night homework where we had examples and non-examples. The first one I did for you, autobiography. An example of an autobiography would be The Amazing Life of Cam Newton by Cam Newton. A non-example, something that's not an autobiography, would be The Amazing Life of Cam Newton by Patricia Panther. Okay? Because if it's an autobiography, it's written by the person themselves. Okay, word number 2 is biography. And you might have something different, but I'm going to go through and tell you what I put, and you can get an idea as to whether or not yours is correct or not. And if you need to fix it, that's okay. You have your red ink pen. So for biography, the example I listed was The Story of Hans Christian Andersen by Jim Brown. That's biography. And an example that is not a biography is All About Spiders by Tarantula. It's spelled tarantula. Tarantula. Okay, so that would not be a biography. Nonfiction is our next word. An example of nonfiction would be How to Raise Chickens by Joe Bach. Okay. Something that would be not an example of nonfiction would be Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain, or The Dork Diaries, or Diary of a Wimpy Kid, or The Hunger Games. Number 4, sight. Okay, sight is when you pull something directly from a text, a quotation from the text, and then you are going to tell the source where it came from also. If you do not cite something, that means you simply use those words without giving that writer the credit, okay, or without pulling it from the text accurately. Number 5, fairy tale. An example of a fairy tale would be Cinderella, or Beauty and the Beast, or The Ugly Duckling. A non-example of a fairy tale, something that's not a fairy tale, would be like Storm by Gary Paulson, or The Race Against Death. Okay, those are not fairy tales. Number 6, milestone. A baby's first steps would be considered a milestone. A baby's first tooth could be a milestone, but like the baby's 8th tooth coming in or something like that, that's not a milestone because that's not as important. Things that are truly important points in our life are called milestones. Graduating from high school would be a milestone. Graduating from college, milestone. Buying your first car, that's a milestone. Okay. Number 7, heroine. I was thinking about the Hunger Games, so I wrote down that Katniss is the heroine of the Hunger Games. Okay. She's the lead female who is the hero. You can see the word hero inside of heroine, okay? Peeta or Gale, on the other hand, they could not be heroines because they are males. They are men. So they would be considered heroes, not heroines. Number 8, quirk. A quirk is an interesting little habit or something that a person does that's a little bit unusual. One thing I wrote down is I have a friend who keeps all of her spices in alphabetical order in her cabinet, in her pantry. Okay, they're all alphabetized. Okay, now that's a little quirky if you ask me, okay, because normally we might keep them looking neat and tidy, but we wouldn't necessarily try to alphabetize them. Okay, so that's a little quirk that she has. Number 9, insane. Saying things that do not make sense at all would be insane. If you're just saying things, the hot dog ran past the house and then jumped into the bun and I ate it. Okay, that does not make sense. Okay. Somebody who's mumbling things like that, they might be insane. Okay. Things that do not make sense. If you're speaking sensibly, if you're talking about how you went across the road to Jake's and you bought yourself a hot dog and you ate it, and then you went home and you played with your dog as you were running outside, now that makes sense. That's coherent. That's sensible. Okay. But if something doesn't seem right, if someone's not speaking correctly or doing something that would be considered correct, then more than likely they're demonstrating some qualities of being insane. All right, number 10, excel. An example of excelling would be making 100 on a test. A non-example of excelling would be failing a test. Okay, because excel means to do awesome. All right, the Tuesday night homework. Number 1, I believe I went over this with most of you earlier this week, so I'll go through it really quickly. How would you change biography and autobiography into adjectives that describe a text? Biographical, we had the I-C-A-L. And autobiographical, again, we had the I-C-A-L. Number 2, what does the root word graph mean? It means write or something that is written. If you think about an autograph, that's somebody famous who's signing their name. Okay. Number 3, if you cite information and write it down, what is that called? It's called a citation. C-I-T-A-T-I-O-N. Number 4, what adjective do we use to describe someone who does better than someone else? All right, the root word is excel. We're going to make it an adjective to describe a person. Excellent. Okay, so if someone makes 100 on a test, you might see excellent work or something like that written across the top of your paper. Excellent. That means you excelled at it. You did better than most other people on that. 5, an amazing female is called a heroine. What do we call an amazing male? A hero. Number 6, what adjective would describe a person with strange habits? Quirky. You simply add an Y to the end. Number 7, milestone originally meant a rock that shows a mile on the road. How has our definition evolved from that meaning? Does it make sense? Why or why not? So back a long time ago, you would be like walking down the road, here's a rock. Then you walk a little bit more and there's another rock. Well, each time you passed one of those stones or those big rocks, you knew it was a mile. You knew you had traveled a mile. So that was important, right? Because you were going from 1 mile to the next. Well, remember how we talked about milestones are the really important things in our lives, like a baby taking the first step or getting married or graduating from college or whatever. Those are milestones. We do one thing and then we pass on and do the next one and the next big thing and the next big thing. Just like in the olden days when they were walking down the road and they passed the rocks that were called milestones. So we now have it mean something a little more symbolic. Okay, we don't actually set down rocks and say, here is where my baby took his first steps. You don't do that. But you might say, my baby just took his first steps. What a milestone for him. Okay. Number 8, if someone is insane, he or she is living a mentally disturbed or abnormal life. What do we call this medical condition? Insanity. I-N-S-A-N-I-T-Y. Insanity. Number 9, what does the prefix non mean? It means not. Number 10, what's your favorite fairy tale? Well, that's up to you. Mine is Beauty and the Beast. For some of you, it might be Cinderella. For some of you, it might be The Ugly Duckling. There are lots of different options there that you could have as your answer. Okay, and then Wednesday night was creating the Quizlet or the study stack, and I had given you the Quizlet earlier this week to play on, so I think everybody should be prepared with having had a chance to do some studying on their Chromebooks. So good luck today as you take the test. I'm not going to take a grade on this, but I hope you made your corrections with your red ink pen. And please take your red ink pen back and put it on the little desk beside of my desk. Thanks, guys.